Aleen Wilson here. I'm here to introduce you to a couple that's fairly new to Stuart.
That's right.
And we're going to talk about arts and crafts. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Donald Towns, and my wife is...
Karen Towns. I'm happy to be in Stuart. It's wonderful out here.
Yes, beautiful here. So we thoroughly
Good.
enjoy.
Tell me a little bit how you got here.
Well, my mother's from Georgia. I grew up in Georgia.
Uh-huh.
And as she's been aging, we felt the need to come together and allow her to be with us. So that way we can keep an eye on her and make sure everything is well.
Yeah, good.
So we went to Georgia and got her and brought her back to live with us. So she is living with us here.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And go ahead.
We end up in Virginia because we have two daughters in North Carolina, and trying to find a place around them since we didn't find a place in Georgia. So Virginia ended
We're
up
right
being,
in the middle between the two daughters.
Right.
One in one direction and one in the other direction. Isn't that
Our
amazing?
one direction,
Yeah.
45 minutes another direction.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how I met these folks. It was at the Bull Mountain Arts Show where Donald won Best in Show, which intrigued my interest, and I wanted to come get to know them and see their work. Karen does crafts, Donald does fine art.
Yes.
Now, show us and tell us about your art.
Okay. Well, I love painting. I don't know if I should start maybe from the beginning. But, of course, when I was young, as most artists, we start out drawing and doing stuff creatively.
Yeah.
And to some point, when I was very young, probably about age 13, I thought, I'm fairly good at this, and maybe I can do something with it to become a real artist or something. I didn't know what at the time because the exposure wasn't really there. But eventually, I got a job when I graduated from high school doing portraits at Six Flags over Georgia, surprisingly. But there is where I met a lot of good artists, but two amazing artists. And those two artists propelled me to try and become even better at what I did. And actually both of them, we've become good friends over the years. We still keep in touch. And one of them, I ended up going to California to pursue my career. My major in school was architectural illustration, but eventually I ended up going into animation. That was because this friend of mine that we went to school together, we were in Georgia together, he encouraged me he felt that my work could be applied to Walt Disney Pictures. And so he kept saying, you should get a job with them. I'm going, but I didn't study animation. I studied architecture. So as a result of that, he said, why don't I take your portfolio? Because he had an interview. And so with the interview, he left my work there. And as a result, I got a call from Disney, and I was totally shocked. It's like, Disney's calling me? So as a result, I ended up getting a job at Disney, and I worked at Disney 11 years, but I was 35 years in animation business. So that's where it all started with me. I love acrylic painting, gouache painting, and oils. Gouache is my most favorite. Acrylic is the second. So most of my work will be in one of those three mediums.
Okay.
So color is something that I really enjoy doing the most. Yeah.
Show us.
Show you. Well, okay. Let's start over here.
Get up on it.
There's a time where I continue to, let's start at this portrait here. Even though I was doing animation, I got a little rusty doing portraits, but I continue to do once in a while, I'll do some portrait related things. And I love doing plein air painting outdoors is a popular thing right now. And here's an example of one of my plein air pieces. And most of these were done in California because we've only been here since February. But going out and painting in nature is, for me, is inspiring, mainly because it reminds me of my Creator, reminds me of God. And nature is that way of illustrating who God is. If we study nature, we can learn things about his character. And so just being outdoors and painting, getting the fresh air, getting the sunshine, all of those things are very important to me. So I enjoy painting outdoors, but I enjoy painting nature, and that's what actually got my interest at Walt Disney Pictures. And here's a small example of animation. My job there was to paint backgrounds, but eventually my job was to come up with color schemes for some of the various shows that I worked on. This is just 3 little color swatches from The Little Mermaid, and I got to art direct The Little Mermaid. And so coming up with color concepts to tell the story.
Back up a little. Say that again. Art director?
Yes. Initially I started out as background supervisor.
We
for
didn't
The Little
want
Mermaid.
anybody to miss that.
Oh, brother. But the original art director for the show had moved on about a third of the way through the show. And because I was working with my director and the art director, I knew the show well enough that I felt like I needed to finish it rather than hiring a new artist. Mm-hmm. So I made the proposition to take the art direction role. So I'll never do that again. Trust me, because doing background supervising and art direction at the same time was a little much. But somehow we made it through the project and it worked out. But those are small examples of coming up with color schemes for film. So again, these are just some of the examples of paintings I've done. This is in the forest of Los Angeles. This is a small sample of a print here that's at the Tehachapi Hospital in California again. The painting itself is fairly big. If I remember, it was like 36 by 48 or something like that as a piece. So that's the sample. But this is where I usually do my paintings at the easel, but sometimes I'll do painting at my desk as well. So perhaps we can walk around and give you an example of that. When my kid was really small, I did a picture of her at the time. It got damaged, but so one of these days I'll take it apart and peel it off and re-stretch it or something. But that's an early, way back when show. These are examples of, and I don't have good lighting over here, but initially when I was hired at Walt Disney Pictures, my supervisor's name was Jim Coleman. And he's gone on to be an amazing artist, known worldwide. That's a sample of one of the characters in The Little Mermaid. Once in a while I'll do some watercolor things, and that's an example of that. Again, nature, lots of nature. You'll see me doing a lot of nature paintings. Again, more shots in California. California gets pretty dry, but that's at the Cesar Chavez National Monument in California. And then there's this section back here where I will sit at my desk to work. I didn't do this. This is a charcoal drawing of my wife's dad.
In China.
Her brother went to China to where her dad grew up, and this was still there, even though he had not been there for years and years and years. He had already passed, and so he brought it back, and so we got to inherit that. So it's like, oh, he's got a little bit of art background where someone has painted him, so that's kind of fun. And so this is the other area where I work. Of course, I have a few paintings. I have a light box over here that I utilize from time to time. And then if I need to sit at my desk to do some painting, this is where I sit as well.
Why don't you go over there?
Okay. But samples from California again. Chavez National Monument there as well. And yeah, I usually will sit here if I'm working on a drawing, or sometimes I'll be working on a painting or whatever here. So another workspace. These are samples from some animated films that I worked on. This was a shot from the animated version of The King and I. This is when I left Disney, and I was drawn away by my boss, who was a director at Disney, and he started his own company and asked me to come over and help him develop a background department at his place called Rich Animation. I'll give you another couple of samples of that as well. These again, and these are on illustration boards, and these were either I would do it in gouache or I would work in acrylics on illustration board, but these were pre-production shots for The King and I. So that's a sample of the type of stuff. And I mentioned this good friend of mine that I met at Six Flags Over Georgia, and we went to school together. We became roommates in California, and he was the one that took my portfolio to Disney. His name is Thomas Blackshear, and he's, artist-wise, we can be talented, but Thomas is gifted. He's like a whole nother stratosphere of art, and he continues to do amazing pieces of work. So I have some of the things here that inspire me basically to keep becoming a better artist if possible. So that's the fun part of just having some of his stuff here to be inspiration. This is a watercolor piece from my watercolor teacher when I was in art school. His name was Irvin Shapiro. He was a very well-known watercolorist in Chicago.
It's hard to get
Oh, that light.
the light. Actually,
Turn that
the
light down.
Is, everything is.
This is creating a glare because there's a glass. It's not a non-glare glass. And again, my former boss at Walt Disney, James Coleman,
Oh, he's the one who. I see.
who hired me. And he was, again, he continues to be an incredible artist, known worldwide. So it's quite amazing. A few more samples of a few things that's up. But I haven't completed my studio yet. So it's, little by little it's coming together. But again, this was a pre-production piece for The King and I. That's done in gouache. The glare. Another gouache piece, just something for study purposes. Sometimes you just try stuff to improve your quick sketching ability, and that's what that was about. This is James Coleman's pre-production piece for a film called The Black Cauldron. This is Bryce National Monument in Utah. That was done in acrylics. And this is a gouache. I did it as a demonstration piece on a YouTube channel that I have, actually, just to show how to approach utilizing gouache. Again, that was an acrylic piece. You might have glare issues here. This was in Antelope Valley, which was an hour down from Tehachapi. And this is a story about a midwife that would deliver a lot of the babies in Lancaster, California. It's an early piece for that. These two are oil pieces. Just different subject matter. I like to do a variety of things. I'll do nature, and then if I can, sometimes I try to do a still life piece. I'm a part of a commission, art commission in Tehachapi, California, and we have tried to make Tehachapi a destination for artists and art collectors. And there we had a show every year. And with that show, we try to have a urban piece, a still life piece, and then a landscape piece. And it would be 3 pieces per artist, unless you were the artist of the month for that particular year. So featured artist, that's the word I'm looking for, actually. So being a part of that has propelled more of trying to do a variety of things as well, just to have some differences. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy the process of painting. So yeah.
Okay. Now let's go see some of Karen's work.
All right.
Karen's going to show us some of her work.
My quilts that I have. Okay. This is one of my little ones that I made with Don Insight, because he showed me how I could shade my flowers and my leaves. So that makes a big difference when you have a husband who's an artist. It's really a blessing. Okay.
Well, you're just a good team.
Right. Another one that I did for fun, I was learning a stained glass technique.
Yeah.
So this is a stained glass technique, and I did a lot of stippling on this one. So this was just a learning curve. This one, if you ever belong to a quilt guild, I did in Tehachapi for a little bit, they have what's called a challenge quilt. They give you one piece of fabric. I can't even remember what fabric it was. I think it was the plaids, and you had to make something with a plaid. So this was one that I had to do with a plaid. So you had to have so much percentage of the fabric and the plaid. And I think this won an award. So it's been a while since I did this one. Another one I did to celebrate the fall colors. I think most of the time I like challenge quilts because you have a deadline and you have to get it done. So deadline help a lot. So this was one I did for fall, and I did the patchwork background and the colors. Of course, that was before I moved out here. Now that I move out here, it's much more inspiring to see all the colors. It's amazing. So this was fun.
Well, we will look for you next year in the Bull Mountain Art Show.
I don't know about that. Okay, I will try. I did say I was going to try. This was another fall colors leaf, a leaf version. And this is all typical patchwork type style. And like many quilters, I have a lot of unfinished quilts that never got done. So those are just my fall. Yeah.
Well,
That's okay.
thank you so much, Karen and Donna,
You're welcome.
for
Thank
letting
you.
me come.
It's an honor. It's a real honor to meet you. And
Yeah, it's good to be on your
yeah.
YouTube.
Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'm a pretty girl.